Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Daily here on a Monday. Happy Monday to you. The first full week of, well, no football. We had our first weekend of no football with no football in sight, and now we enter that portion of the season where college basketball really locks in and takes center stage for us around here. And we'll continue to follow that, even though it was a rough weekend. Overall, good weekend for one of our teams and a rough one for the other two. We'll have Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director, joining us a little later in this hour. We've had to move around his schedule a little bit. Not only the struggles of Shocker basketball, but we get the start of Shocker softball and Shocker baseball as well. Get a sort of a recap of what happened here in this opening weekend there. It was NBA All-Star Weekend. Any takeaways for us there? And, of course, the NFL offseason comes into full focus. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Happy President's Day. I don't exactly know what we celebrate on President's Day, but it's I wanted to extend my President's Day gratitude towards you, I guess. I don't know. I mean, what do we actually celebrate on this day?
I think for the government to get an extra day off, maybe. Banks to get a much needed day off.
They work so hard
for furniture stores to be able to give us and provide us great sales. Like, I have no idea, Tommy. I'm hoping, like, I'm frantically looking to make sure I'm not going to be offensive in any of this. I don't think so. I think it's just George Washington's birthday.
Okay.
And I think we've passed that amount of time where you can poke fun and not be offensive to George Washington. But I don't know what the point of it is. I just know it's my kids are off and we'll get to hang out today. And I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, officially, guys, it is still known as just the George Washington's birthday national holiday. Still officially, there are some states where they have kind of said it is just a full-on President's Day, and it kind of sandwiches Washington and Lincoln's birthdays. And that's I don't know, I guess that's
today,
the official one. Yeah.
Today's a national holiday, but the day after the Super Bowl is not. Literally one Monday ago.
Well,
we can't change that up and move that around.
So there is some chatter about when the season ultimately gets extended by a week, which we all know is coming at some point, that the Super Bowl would fall right into President's Day.
Okay. That would work. I'd be okay
Monday
with that.
of February, and we'd all be in good shape, right? You would just then have, thank you, George Washington. You'd get the holiday that we all want anyway. I don't know. I don't know.
We know how big of a football fan George Washington was in his day, so it makes
Tommy,
a lot of sense.
I mean, let's be real though. Our federal lawmakers work hard, very hard to get nothing done. They need a day off from that hard work. No offense, federal lawmakers that are listening to the program. We're poking a little fun here at President's Day. I'm glad it got the day off though, because the sun's going to be out shining, and we'll get outside and just go. I feel like I need to be a cat and just go lay in it. Like I'm too pasty. I need a little sun in my life. It's been a gloomy last month where it's just like, goodness great. How do people in Seattle live like this? I can't handle it. I wake up with a headache. Like, get me out of here. Give me some sun.
Well, you guys want to know little inside radio on this President's Day?
Yes.
I will give you just a second or two to guess how many people are in this building right now.
One, Jad Chambers.
You'd be off by one. There are two of us here.
Wow.
Right now.
Thank you for your dedication, Jad. Thank you for all your hard work.
Myself and the very hardworking Steve McIntosh.
I know how difficult it is to be in on this holiday, especially. I actually won't be working TV tonight, but not because it's President's Day, but because we have a basketball game, and I coach my daughter's team, and their assistant coach is out of town, just didn't have a choice. So we'll be in. Boy, we got our butts kicked this weekend. We played a team that had some size, had a little size advantage on us, and the refs kind of swallowed their whistle, and we got beat up a little bit. My daughter's just like bruises all over, and I'm like, listen, that's a part of the game. sweetie. Like if they're fouling you like that, you got to be ready to foul them back. And I'm ready to play. I'm ready for the girls to get a chance to play again tonight. They need to wash themselves clean of that one a little bit. Me too. Like it made me unreasonably angry afterward. I'm like, what is this? Like, what's happening to me? This is third grade girls basketball. Like I need to take a minute here.
But I was taking their lumps. Taking their lumps.
I was pretty hot after the game. Tommy, I just saw this. This isn't where I intended to go, but in fear that I will forget it because it just popped up in the old timeline. The Big 12 is expected to move its football media days out of Dallas and to Vegas in July. Vegas in July for football media days. I know there are a lot of media members that will love seeing that and hope dearly that, they can have their employer foot the bill on a plane ticket instead of a tank of gas. But that's just furthers on what I think Brett Yormark's mission is here, is to create this national brand for the Big 12.
Yeah, I think from the success that we, not only saw from the Super Bowl a week ago, but just the way that Vegas has over the last couple of years embraced professional sports, I think it's the next natural progression for college athletics. And so, if the Big 12 wants to be the first one to jump into that world, then so be it. And, if they can get a stranglehold in that market and just with, the overall allure of what Las Vegas is, the SEC hasn't done that. The Big Ten hasn't done that to this point. It seems like, a good natural progression and probably quite a bit of money to be made, I would think, with moving media days there. It just, I think it makes natural sense with the way that the world is moving towards Las Vegas as this like big sports mecca now.
Yeah. It makes a ton of sense because it can handle it. Right? Like it's literally just the Strip area. I mean, it's a great big city otherwise, but the Strip is a city of hotels. Like that's all it is. It's its own city there. I do have, as somebody who loves Las Vegas, do have some interest to see how they handle gathering kids and athletes there that aren't 21 years old yet, though. That's interesting because you can't even go into a casino unless you're 21. And a lot of now maybe they just bring upperclassmen, maybe they skate around it that way. I'm not sure, but that part is a little bit interesting. Where do they go to where like student reporters who are not, old enough to have access, all those kinds of things. I'll have to work.
I would imagine that's kind of the least of their concerns. And
probably, no, it is.
I'm guessing they didn't think about student
reporters. That's only
no.
That's but the athletes certainly they would have. It's the same concept. You just have to like. There's going to be a little bit of pushback. They got to just be prepared for it because it'll come, right? Like, what are we doing this here for? There's no team. Now, there are teams out there, but it's just, you have to, I wonder how they'll handle that. Like, do they just plant it right smack in the middle of the Strip where there are so many places where, your young people, I don't know. We'll see how they do it. I think it's a good idea. Don't misunderstand. I think anything you can do to put the league in the spotlight and create the exposure is a good thing for the league. I think that it's a fine idea. I think moving it is a fine idea. I don't think you have to do it in the same place every year either. I don't know if it generates the kind of buzz and fanfare that it would become some event. Probably not. But, there may be some economic value to bouncing it around every year and having it in different cities in the summer. I mean, you could have it in any city in the summertime. If you're in July, weather's great everywhere, right? So we'll see how they handle this. Moving out of Dallas that might be the more interesting part, Tommy, because the Big 12 is going to lose some of its home base because Texas and Oklahoma are not going to be in the Big 12 anymore. So I think that probably has something to do with it too. Like you're going to lose a lot of that market because those two teams are leaving and they're the two bigger teams, them and A&M, your biggest brands for that market specifically are gone now. They're all in the SEC.
Yeah. And don't you think too, that this could potentially be just the first domino to fall? And, eventually we see maybe the Big 12 championship game in football at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, or maybe we see Big 12 basketball tournament, maybe not in Vegas, but somewhere else other than Kansas City. I mean, I think that if Yormark is willing to move the media days out of Dallas, then at that point, really, is anything sacred? And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing or the worst thing in the world. You've got a kind of nationwide expansion of the Big 12, so you don't have to have your championships in the same place that you've had them for however many years. So it wouldn't surprise me if we maybe start to see that at some point too.
Yeah, Jerry Jones probably won't let that happen, but you could see it move around, right? Maybe it's not there every year. Here's what would be the other thing. Do you ever see the SEC championship come to Jerry World? And this new, that
probably would.
Quite possibly. So it all, like those little things in the realignment sort of get swept under the radar. But I did.
Where do they have it now? They've got it in Atlanta, right? Isn't that where they do that every year at the Falcons Dome?
They've had it in
I think that's
Florida
where
in the past. I think now it may be. Let me just look here. I think it's moved.
Is it New Orleans or is it Atlanta? It's one of those domes that they do it. I think
they've got it at Mercedes-Benz.
Okay.
On a quick search. Which is Atlanta, and then there were some. Let me see if I can go to the history here and see where it's moved. Okay. Since 2017. Well, no. Okay, so it was at the Georgia Dome first. So it's been it's been in Atlanta since 1994. It played it at the Georgia Dome forever, and then have moved it to Mercedes-Benz. So
no knock to Mercedes-Benz. That's a really nice dome, but AT&T Stadium. I mean, Jerry would jump at the opportunity to, move it there from the Mercedes-Benz.
That sort of stuff with the realignment will be interesting to see. I mean, it's the Big 12 will lose Dallas now. Like it will, there'll still be plenty of people in Dallas. You still have TCU. There's still Baylor. There's still a ton of interest in Dallas. But when you don't have now Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M, those are the three biggest brands in that region. So we'll have to see if there are ripple effects there, but that stuff's already been talked about a long time ago. Like, those discussions have all happened for a while. I'm sure Mercedes-Benz and Atlanta, the city of, doesn't want to let it go either. But maybe you could get an SEC media day in Dallas. Like there's all kinds of different things that could happen.
Did you ever play the board game Risk back in the day, or as an adult?
I tried to. I never looked up the actual rules. Just kind of made up my own.
That's kind of what this reminds me of. But from a sports standpoint, your Mark is playing Risk right now and retreating away from one area to go to another. And so, if you're willing to give up the state of Texas, which, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, TCU, Houston, Baylor, Texas Tech, they're all in the state of Texas, but the big brands are no longer part of the Big 12. So if you're willing to give that up, what are you going to go attack, instead of that? If you are fortifying your troops, if you will, Vegas with the betting and the landscape there, it seems like that's kind of the next step for the Big 12 and where your Mark wants to go. And what I like about that is that it's not just retreating out of the state of Texas, it's retreating out of the state of Texas for media days, but finding a suitable replacement, or maybe even a replacement that could be better than where they had it before. So, I'm constantly impressed by Brett Yormark and his strategic mind in continuing to try to build this overall Big 12 brand.
Yeah. I am impressed with him, and I hope he keeps the aggression up, and I hope he does something with basketball. That's my big thing. And, announcements like this, when college basketball takes center stage, maybe it draws attention. That may be a stretch. Let's talk about college basketball. So we're going to we'll come back and we'll do sort of like a more brief overview of the college basketball weekend. Then we'll have Kevin Saul come in to talk a little bit more about Wichita State. And then we'll have Shreyas Laddha come in a little later to talk more about KU. And we'll get more in depth on K-State because their outcome this weekend may be the most impactful of the three. But we'll get into all of it as we make our way through Sports Daily. Happy Monday. Happy President's Day, everybody. Thank you to everybody who is out there powering through on this President's Day for us, like us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Glad to be here with you on this Monday edition, this President's Day, Tommy. Weekend of college basketball. The Shockers, very disappointing week overall. Couple of losses on the road. KU finally gets that big, significant road win, right? Big win for the Jayhawks. We'll have more on that with Shreyas Lato. We'll have more on the Shockers with Kevin Saul in just a few minutes. Kansas State probably had the one that hurts the most. The buzzer beater from TCU beats the Wildcats. They had to have that one, I'm afraid. Now, that doesn't mean they can't still get in. Of course they can. It just means it's very unlikely now because of what remains on their schedule, starting tonight with a trip to Austin. But it is not going to be easy for the Cats, who really needed to get that one at home against TCU. Couldn't get it done. And now, as you look at the rest of their schedule, we talked at length about this last week, you go to Texas, you get BYU, West Virginia at home is not going to help your case at all. Cincinnati on the road probably won't help much. So then your other prospects are beating Iowa State at home and Kansas on the road. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for the Wildcats.
Yeah, that was a backbreaking final shot, I think, for TCU, and not just in that game, but for what the Wildcats are trying to accomplish to make it into the tournament. And really, I think that the biggest thing coming out of that game on Saturday as they have to turn around and go to Austin tonight. And not that Texas has been an incredible team this season, but they do have a significant amount of talent. I would suggest
they're good in the net.
They probably they probably underperformed as far as what expectations are for Texas, because they're not in the top 25. They've been kind of up and down in conference play, but like you mentioned, the net likes them and they've got quite a bit of talent. So it's a quick turnaround for the Wildcats. This is another one. And of course, all of them from here on out in the regular season are that much more important now for Kansas State after that loss against TCU.
Well, look, and two, I mean, you could look at from an optimist take, like a win over Texas tonight would be better than the win over TCU at home. It's just the likelihood of it is also lower. So it's you just have to. We're trying to gauge the chances and the likelihood that they'll be able to get in, and it's going to take a really strong effort down the stretch. The easy games on the schedule, unfortunately for the Cats, like we all love to see those easy games, like, oh, that'll help them in the standings, but they don't do anything for their tournament resume, like nothing. They won't help them at all. Cincinnati could help them. Cincinnati could help them on the road. So that's one, but West Virginia won't. So, I mean, it's there. The challenge is there. All but the West Virginia games, if they win them, would be significant boosts to the resume. And there are 6 left. And if they can get 4 of those wins, I don't, 4 will make it close probably. 4 would probably make it close. But that's a big ask. I mean, that is a really, really big ask for a team right now that's 2-5 on the road in the conference.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that I think did the Wildcats in, obviously, if you break it down, 1 of 15 from the 3-point line is not going to get it done. And that's been something that I know it's been up and down for the Wildcats. And really, if you want to talk specifically, Tyler Perry, he had 24 points, but after the KU game, when he hit a ton of big threes in that Sunflower Showdown inside Bramlage, he's gone ice cold from long range, and the entire team has. And so, if you shoot 1 of 15, at that point, that allowed TCU to get right back into the game. And again, with another quick turnaround, they've got to figure that shooting out. You've got to shoot at a better clip than 1 of 15. That's 6% from 3-point range, especially when you're going on the road against Texas.
Yeah, it's a backbreaker. They're going to have to, I feel like, get ugly tonight, just ugly it up a little bit, get nasty, see if you can't grind one out. What was that score against Kansas when they beat it? Yeah, 75-70, but it took overtime to get there. That kind of a game, right? You just get it ugly and see if you can't do something to have your shooters have a good night and get the win. I mean, it would erase the TCU loss. When we say that TCU felt like a must win, it's because that was one of the ones you could pencil them in for, right? This one isn't one of those, but they can still go get it. And they'll have to, look, hot teams do well late in seasons. There's certainly a chance K-State could get hot. And something we brought up the other day, like if you're trying to, hold out hope for the Wildcats, just remember the way they started in the league, right? Where they were 4-1, probably should have been 5-0. Just remember that a little bit and know that that's in the tank somewhere. Can they channel that again for a stretch here down the home stretch? Maybe they'll also have, neutral court opportunities against some really good teams in the tournament. So they've got a ton of work to do. And of the Big 12 teams that have a chance at the tournament, they probably have the most work to do. UCF's actually still ahead of them in the net ranking. So, of the 12 teams in the mix of the 14 for the NCAA tournament, Kansas may have the most work to do of all of them to try to get in. I think they'll take at least 9. I would be pretty surprised if they go to 10, but they could. So, how can you get your resume better than some of these teams who are 50 spots better than you in the net rankings? You got to beat them head to head, but it's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, I think for Kansas State, I mean, looking at the final 6 games of the regular season, I think you have to go 5-1 down the stretch. I don't think you can drop more than 1 more regular season game. And then I think you're going to need to win, 2 more games in the Big 12 tournament, probably, to get in at this point. I mean, I think that, you've got 3 home games, 3 road games. And I think that, I think maybe one of them you maybe have one more in you. And that might be the game inside Allen Fieldhouse on March 5th. I think you've got to go on the road tonight. You've got to beat Texas. You've got to take care of business at home against BYU and Iowa State, both teams currently in the top 25. And then, probably, you've obviously got to win, on the road against Cincinnati and at home against West Virginia. So I think that out of the final 6 regular season games, really the only one that maybe you not necessarily concede, but the only one that you're like, okay, well, that would be okay if you lose that game, would be in Lawrence on the 5th.
Yeah. Well, the problem for us is these formulas are so hard to understand, right? I just keep looking at it as you got about 50 spots. They need to get into the 40s for me. Like, they need to get into the 40s. They need to climb up the stand. Like, there's so much there, but it is still there for them. It is. And this will, I said this before the tough loss to TCU. I'm very interested to see how, even as much as the players, how the coaches respond to this sort of adversity. They haven't done that yet, right? Backs against the wall and all those things. And their back's been against the wall, I think, probably for a week and a half or so. But it is even more so now, and they got a quick turnaround to get on the road. That spread, by the way, tonight, which I have not looked at, but let's take a quick look here because I can't imagine I imagine K-State's getting a pretty healthy number here, even though Texas has struggled a little bit. Yeah, 8.5.
Yeah.
Whew. They're getting 8.5 points on the road. So tread lightly, but there you go. All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to be joined by Wichita State Athletic Director Kevin Saul. Tough week for Shocker basketball. We'll get into that, and we'll get into the start of the spring sports seasons. Baseball, softball, both underway now. We'll get a quick look at how things are going there as we make our way through this Monday on Sports Daily. All right, still trying to track down Kevin Saul for a visit here. We'll get into the Shockers as we wait and see if Jad can get it. Tommy, it was another rough week. 2 losses. Charlotte's pretty good. East Carolina's not that good. East Carolina game was never particularly close on Thursday with extra rest, we should also point out. And now the Shockers sit in a situation where they've won 3 of their last 18 games. 3 of their last 18 games. I never saw that coming. I wasn't sure if this team was going to be any good, but I never thought they'd be this bad. It's been a tough year. It has been a tough year. Wichita State is down there tied for last place in the conference with Temple and UTSA, which is another thing that's pretty hard to say out loud, but that's the situation that we see the Shockers in right now. And, you know, as we had just a glimmer of hope there for a little bit, it's come crashing back down now, and it's just not quite there.
Yeah, I thought, look, I think that we've had a lot of different discussions about whether the glass is half full or the glass is half empty with this program.
It's full empty.
Well, but I think that, you know, even as recently as a couple of weeks ago, we were having conversations about feeling optimistic about this team moving forward, right? And so I think that you have to wonder, how much is that extinguished at this point? And how much can you put aside what is currently happening in the moment with this program and look at what potentially could be down the road? But then again, it's all speculation because we don't know what the team will look like after this season. And you know, so how is the transfer portal going to be utilized? What do the incoming recruits look like? Are there going to be adjustments or changes, you know, with this program moving forward? And I think that those are the biggest questions, you know, that are left to be answered. And we don't know that. And honestly, I would imagine that, you know, even Paul Mills doesn't really know all the answers to those questions. We've seen this team have sparks of what we want them to be. We have early in the season, even a couple of small glimpses during the conference season. We have seen small glimpses, but not enough to instill a whole lot of hope or confidence moving forward in this program. And I think that, you know, some of us being optimistic from time to time, I'm looking back on that as kind of wishful thinking, like really hoping and willing it into existence. And it just really hasn't happened that way.
Right. I mean, look, it's not like I'm always going to try and be positive, but there's nothing to be positive about with the way this season has played out. We're always going to be honest, right? I'm hopeful. We've got Kevin Saul. Okay, so Kevin joins us right as we're talking about another tough week for the Shockers. Kevin, we'll pick it up. Thank you for being here this morning, by the way.
Sure thing. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show.
And we don't
have any other choice but to remain positive.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
I was just going to say we don't have any other choice other than to remain positive and productive. We continue to get better every single day. So,
as the wins haven't come, only 3 in the last 18, Kevin. Like as we've got fans here listening, like what is the positive outlook for the big picture? I know that there's still season to play here, and internally the focus will be on the rest of the season. Yep. There's no question about that. But you know, what can be done or what reassurances can be there now for fans to know that, you know, bigger picture things are being done so that this type of season doesn't happen again, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that because we've had seasons like this in our history. Nobody likes them and nobody wants them. We've had 2 very successful coaches run through this program that won, I think, 8 and 11 in their first seasons, respectively. That's not an excuse. That's reality. That's fact. Okay. And at the end of the day, we don't want that. The difficult seasons happen. So to me, that's the first thing. The second piece, guys, is whenever in your personal life, in your professional life, whatever the case may be, if you're going to build something that is meaningful and worthwhile, it will take time. And that's not our society right now, right? We live in a microwave society. Everything's under scrutiny. When are we going to see the gratification? How quickly will that come? At the end of the day, it takes time to build programs. What I thought was really interesting is I read a quote from Mike Krzyzewski. He gave it yesterday. And I thought it was really interesting, kind of set some context. He said, if we were building that Duke program in today's world in today's day and age, I would have been fired at the end of year 3. So at the end of the day, constant change doesn't build, doesn't create, doesn't fortify, doesn't strengthen, doesn't produce foundation. So we're going to remain positive. We're going to continue to address the things and try and get better every single day. This past week was clearly a step back. And, if you think about building processes, I think about the community of Wichita. Like, who are we playing for and who do we represent, right? We're farmers. We are livestock producers. We are engineers. We're aviation experts. We're factory workers, right? There's ingenuity, there's innovation, all of those things. We're blue collar. We work hard. We don't make excuses and we don't have an attitude. At the end of the day, that aligns with what we're trying to create in our program so that it resonates with the people of Wichita and they want to support it because that program supports everything else that we've got going on. Those are the pieces that we think about that we're trying to put in place. And at the end of the day, in one recruiting cycle, that's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to build and develop and recruit and retain that.
Kevin, this isn't a coaching question. It's more of a culture question. And I know that you're around this program. I know that you, spend quite a bit of time with the team, with the coaches and all of that. I know that it hasn't translated in the win-loss column, but what have you seen from the start and not even the start of the season, but the start day one when you hired Paul Mills to now, as far as building a culture? And again, it hasn't translated to the record, but from an insider's point of view, what have you seen from then to now to kind of give that optimism and give that hope for the future?
Yeah, I think this is a cliche, but when you hear experts talk about implementing culture, it is like turning a battleship. And that doesn't happen immediately. There's so many elements to a basketball program, right? You want to talk about compliance, you want to talk about academics, ticket sales, game day, sponsorships, donors. There's so many offshoots to this program that as we're generating culture, ultimately the simple definition is culture is what you tolerate. So there's competitive culture, there's locker room culture, there's all of those pieces. And again, guys, I would just tell you from a confidence and assurance standpoint, I can tell you it is the number one priority. It's what we spend our days on, more specifically our men's basketball staff, but I do it as well and try and help and support those guys because we're building this program together. So what I see is I see a completely different way. And, culture's overused. At the end of the day, it's about a way of doing things. And some will assimilate to a way of doing things quicker than others. Are we 100% there in terms of the assimilation? Absolutely not. Do you ever get 100% there? You probably don't. And that's why you course correct. I mean, we're serving 18 to 22-year-old young people. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be days where you take a step back. Just like in any business or worthwhile enterprise, you're going to have down days. So how do we learn from those and how do we get better? And certainly it hasn't produced in the win column. We understand that. Nobody's any more aware of that than Coach Mills and I. But at the end of the day, and we said this from the outset, guys, I said it in June of 22 when I accepted the job. And we talked about it when we introduced Paul Mills. There is no shortcut to winning. And if you want to take the shortcut to winning, at the end of the day, it's not sustainable, number one. And number two, it's going to put your institution and your program in trouble. So we're going to do it the right way. We're going to build it the right way. That's been done here before, and it's been done from very humble beginnings.
Do you think it's harder now, Kevin, to do that kind of stuff? And you mentioned microwave, and I agree. We do have definitely. I mean, we're starved for instant gratification, but the landscape has changed in a way that it's out there. How hard is it, or how realistic is it to stick to it for a long period of time, or do you have to adapt and adjust and try to find some, or just mix in short-term fixes, I guess, to try and get things steered back in the right direction. I don't think it's the same now as it was when Mike Krzyzewski was getting his career started in 1980. I just wonder how much that's changed and how difficult that makes things, or maybe it doesn't make things difficult for you at all. Maybe just stick to it either way.
Well, I think you're always looking for a competitive edge everywhere you go, right? At the end of the day, you have standards that that you're not willing to compromise on as a program. Okay, so whatever moves, buttons you can push, levers you can pull, short-term fixes, to use your term, if they fit within the standards of your program and who you're trying to be and what you're trying to do without compromising that, then sure, we're going to take advantage of every opportunity that we have to get better, faster. I think it is a very, very interesting dynamic because, I can only go through personal experience, guys, and I'll use a football analogy. The building the football program at Kansas State and Kentucky. Okay, those start from very, very humble beginnings, right? Coach Snyder goes 1-10 in his first year, and that one win was something to celebrate. I thought they were going to burn the town down because they hadn't won in 3 or 4 years, right? And then the very next year, if I'm not mistaken, he goes 4-7, and then the next year he goes 7-4, and then he takes a step back and they go 5-6. Does that mean that 5-6 team didn't help build the foundation, didn't help build the culture for what would soon be 11 straight bowl games and 1 win short of a national championship in '98? So it all matters. It's all part of the journey. At the end of the day, when you lose 8 straight, it hurts, and you learn lessons, and those lessons help develop you as a young person, as a coach, as an administrator, on how are we going to get better. And we all do that in our personal lives. So I think it would be disingenuous for us to pretend that doesn't happen in a public space like this as well, that we're going to continue to learn and grow. Kentucky, the same thing, right? Building a football program there. Stoops starts in 2013. He goes 5-0 in 13 and 14 and then loses 6 straight to end 5-6, just short of a bowl game. Humble beginnings. And what's resulted from that? Citrus Bowl wins, Gator Bowl wins, some really remarkable seasons. I think they've had 2 of the 4 or 5 in the history of the program 10-win seasons. Those failures help mold young people, coaches, administrators into what we want to be. Okay, as I mentioned before, guys, we've had 2 very successful coaches build very successful programs here at Wichita State that started with very humble beginnings in terms of their seasons. So this isn't new to us. We're going to continue to stay positive. We're going to continue to build this thing. We're going to continue to pour into our young people. I think from a future standpoint, guys, we looked in the last 20 or 30 years, they keep major recruiting rankings. We've had 12 top 150 players come in from high school into the Wichita State men's basketball program. We have 2 coming in next year. Now, will they be freshmen and make mistakes next year? Of course, they will. But that's part of the growth process. That's part of the learning process. And at the end of the day, we're going to remain diligent, urgent, and patient with this process so we can build into something that is not only enjoyable, but is sustainable for a long period of time.
One more from me about this, Kevin. From your perspective, how important is staying the course right now? How important is continuity? Personal experience, and I'm not in your shoes. I'm not in Coach Mills's shoes. I just kind of know from the way that I am, and I'm an impatient person by nature, it would be really tempting for me if I was in that chair to blow the whole thing up and start over. I don't know if I would do it, but in today's landscape with the transfer portal and all of that, after the season that I've had, if I'm in that chair, it would be tempting to just say, you know what, this is not working. Let's try another approach. So from your perspective, how important is it to keep that whole going?
Yeah. So walk me through, you're sitting in that chair. Help me understand how do you define blow it up and start over?
Well, and then that's the thing is I don't know.
Yeah. Is that from a standpoint? What are you thinking?
Yeah. I mean, from a roster standpoint, again, I don't know. And I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm just saying if I was in that chair, just because I'm an impatient person, I'm not saying that that's what needs to happen or anything, but I'm just saying how important from your perspective is that continuity?
Well, continuity is important. I think we understand that, when you have teams older teams with players that have played 2, 3, 4 years together, there's a synergy that exists that's different than teams that might have a bunch of freshmen, right? I think that's pretty evident in our world. When you have, in a business or an organization, when you have folks that have worked together for 4, 5, 6, 10 years, and you understand strengths and weaknesses and blind spots, and you can fill in for other folks. And again, in a business or an office setting, those tend to be higher productive and higher producing teams over brand new ones. So continuity is incredibly important. I mean, if you're investing in the stock market, right? Are you switching your investments every day, paying a fee to reinvest in something different? You're going to pull it out of AT&T and you're going to stick it into Textron, and you're going to do that every single day, or are you going to play the long game and look at trends? And at the end of the day, that's how folks build their retirements. Which is a long and sustaining and beneficial. And I know I'm throwing out a lot of random examples, but at the end of the day, you can come up with plenty of examples where continuity, patience, building a foundation sustains long-term results. And if you are going to be a program that just flails in the wind, and you're going to go whichever way the wind blows, it's going to be difficult to create some sustaining continuity. So as that relates specifically to our roster, we're serving 18 to 22-year-old young people. And I believe that life is managed in the middle, right? If one end of the spectrum is completely transactional and the other end of the spectrum is completely relational, we're somewhere in the middle, okay? Student athletes' rights have advanced significantly in the last 5 years. But with those rights come responsibilities, right? Our young people understanding who they play for. And in my opinion, we're playing for 4 different entities. They're playing for themselves and their families. They're playing for their teammates in the locker room. They're playing for the community of Wichita. And it's really important to understand who the community of Wichita is, so that your play reflects and resonates with those folks. And then at the end of the day, you're playing for the next generation of Shockers, right? We're in our first year. Again, we were behind, guys. We're in our first year of investments in NIL. Are we creating a return on investments in NIL with our style of play and our quality of play that are going to help the next generation and ultimately help our program in the future? Critically important. And those are 4 different pressures on our young people. We're not going to take a 100% transactional approach. And then obviously we're not going to take a 100% relational approach. There is a productivity aspect to this. You got to produce, because with rights come responsibilities.
And they'll have a really big opportunity. And dadgummit, let's get 2 wins at home this week. Wednesday, Sunday games, Tulsa, Temple. Big opportunity to build momentum and start that. The rest of the schedule is winnable. And, let's see if they can get it done. Before we run out of time, Kevin, I do want to take just a second here. Baseball got a good start this weekend, I think. 2 wins, 2 and 3 on the road, a true road really series. Cool. How has that looked to you? I don't know how much time you've had to spend with them right now, but how have those? It's certainly something we liked seeing there in the opening weekend, and it's a huge week for them coming up here at the end of this week with Virginia, Auburn, and Iowa.
No doubt. So if you have a strong fear of failure, you probably don't schedule Little Rock in week 1 and then go down to Jacksonville and play Virginia, Auburn, and Iowa in week 2. So I like our willingness to get vulnerable, because these tests that we're talking about on the men's basketball side, at the end of the day, they help you build your program. And failure can help you build. Iron sharpens iron, right? So I think the Little Rock series was really interesting because, guys, I don't know if you know this, they played in the final game of the OVC tournament last year, got beat by Moorhead, who has kind of been the perennial power in the OVC. And then they were selected to preseason to win the league this year, which is obviously a preseason selection. You got to go out and earn it. But their Friday night game 1 starter was a preseason All-American. And I was really impressed with our offense to go right out the gate. They scored 2 in the top of the first and 3 in the top of the second, and they knocked him out. He pitched 2 innings and got into the bullpen. So that piece was really good. I think it was 18-4 on Friday, and then it was 14-0 on Saturday. A little closer game on Sunday. Tommy Lepore was good on the mound. I think he might have been a little spun up And both starters yesterday were a little bit wild, but we, it was a neck and neck game. It was 2-2, it was 3-2, and then it was 3-3, and then 4-3, 4-4, and then I think we couldn't scratch a run across the last 4 or 5 innings, and they got the 5-4 win. But at the end of the day, if we're making a habit out of winning series, we'll take it. So really challenging weekend this weekend down in Jacksonville. Our guys, the lineup's going to see a whole lot more velo than they saw this past week. A lot more movement. So you've got perennial Big Ten power Iowa, and then you've got a previous national champion, in the last 10 years in Virginia, and Auburn. So it'll be a really, really firm test for our guys.
4 more games to go before people can see the home opener there on March 1st. And they all should be a pretty good test. And then real quick, Kevin, as we are winding down here, softball, I guess, softball I think for most of us is sort of a wait and see approach, when you lose the kind of players that they lost, but just an unbelievably difficult tournament in Mexico, but they end, with a win over 20th ranked South Carolina. And it took Auburn at number 25 to extra innings. I don't know how much of a rebuild or a retool there will be this year, but that's certainly a promising start, I think, for them too. Yep.
So guys, I think it's a perfect example. Christie's been here for 13 years, 14 years, and administrations have been patient through the build. And what you're seeing is a team that last year had some unbelievable offensive productivity. And then in the off season, the questions are, man, we think we're going to be really good in the circle, but we're going to have to develop the offense in the fall. And I think Coach Economon and Christie and all those guys, Courtney, they've done a really good job of developing. And then you test your program. You get vulnerable. You put yourself out there, and you go up against one of the best starting pitchers in the country in Clemson. And you know what? We lost 7-0. So are the lessons learned in a 7-0 loss any different, better? Do they improve your program as opposed to a 18-4 win against Little Rock? I don't know. You learn different lessons in losses than you might in wins. And so I think that helps develop programs. So if these firm schedules, I think, are really good as we prepare for conference play, as we prepare for postseason play. And I think softball is a perfect example of when you remain patient on the front end of these journeys, you are going to see sustained success over time, right? It's been, 5 NCAA tournaments in the last 6 years. And they're in an era that our program hasn't seen before. That doesn't happen if we had a really tough year 3 or 4 and we decide to make a change in our softball staff. So I think continuity makes a difference. I think the teamwork and the camaraderie amongst the administration, staff, and the coaches, that we're all pulling in the same direction and that we're removing obstacles for them and supporting their program and ultimately developing young people and recruiting and retaining those young people over time, that continuity will pay off, as we're seeing in softball.
Softball up next. They get their home opener is still a ways away, not until March 8th. A lot of games in between now and then. Some big tournaments coming up. Kevin, we know it's not an easy time to come on here and talk to us about it. We do appreciate that. And we look forward to, a spark for basketball and then continued early success for baseball, softball, women's basketball going right now. Busy time. We appreciate you being with us here on Sports Daily.
Jacob, Tommy, thank you very much for having us on the show. And I would share with you, it's not difficult to come on. You guys you're fair, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity. We're journeying together with the community of Wichita and every part of this thing. And there will be some tough days, and we'll work our way through the tough days and get to a better spot. So appreciate the opportunity on the show, and go Shockers.
And know that the two of us want Wichita State to be successful as much or more than anybody out there. Yep. I have grown to love Shocker basketball as a transplant. It's one of my favorite things in the world. So we'll take a look this week. Couple winnable games. We'll react to some of the things Kevin had to say there on the other side. We'll take a quick break. We owe it to Jad. We'll be back with more Sports Daily right after this.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
Oh boy, man, I hate it so much for Shocker basketball. I want them to be good. It is this time of year, Tommy. It's like this football. I love just like consuming the Shockers. It is like this little pro team. I say little only because it's, college basketball, but it is like having a pro team in town. I need them to be good, and I need this turnaround to come quick. It's not coming this year, but it needs to come quickly. And I'm just, I'm hopeful that it's an off season full of buzz and excitement for the fan base. But look, I get it. I get why it's an uneasy time for Kevin Saul and everybody. You got to get this right. You stake everything on this. And, building long-term programs is the goal, but is it the reality? I don't know. And we'll see. The fans will tell that story, right? If they're willing to stick with it. I'm not sure. I know that the game is changing. I know it's difficult for fans to see, first-year coaches in other places in the league find success right away. All these things are hard to see as a fan, and we'll see how it sticks and what players stick and all these things. But it's an uneasy time. And it really is. Like, it's not a lot has changed in the last week, except you felt like those were, at least one of them should be a winnable game. But it does sort of continue, Tommy, this like seeing a ceiling and a floor so far apart for this team and just seeing it at different points at different times. I don't know. I do know. It makes it better to see some ceiling in there. It'd be far worse if it was only floor you were seeing, right? It does make it better to see ceiling, but it also adds to a frustration. We're like, man, why can't they channel that? Like, why can't they take the best of it and put it together consistently? Because you do feel like at times when you see them play the top end of this league down to the wire on, occasion after occasion, it's like give me that consistently. It's tough. It's tough for everybody. I know obviously it's tough on the coaches and players too. And the other part of it is, I think, Tommy, when we talk about these things, and it's the question I get the most from fans, bar none, not even close. Like, it wasn't like this with Isaac Brown. And when you talk about program building, you took that away when they were finding some moderate success. I think the challenge is when you're in Kevin Saul's position specifically, is you're never going to negatively, at least he's not, that's not his personality. There are probably some people out there that would, but he won't come out and give you those reasons publicly. I'm not going to say anything negative about somebody publicly. And so I can respect that, but it does make the challenge of getting people to buy into the building process a little bit more difficult. And so, the easy answer is for this team to just start winning a bunch of games. And, Paul Mills, if you go back and look at his resume, it was not great in year one at Oral Roberts. And then they did, raise the bar a little bit into that final season that catapulted him into this job. But, some of those middle seasons were, 17 wins, 18 wins. Is that going to be enough? I don't think that's going to be enough. I mean, I think the program building is that this is a tournament team every year. That's the expectation here, is that this team is in the tournament, in the postseason every year, basically what Memphis has achieved. And I know Memphis has fallen apart this year, so that maybe that's not the best example, but bigger picture to level of success, I think it is. It's hard to get there. We are impatient. The transfer portal has made it worse. What was already a societal issue of impatience, the transfer portal has amplified tenfold, and it's all a piece of this bigger puzzle in this new frontier, and we'll just have to see how quickly it comes in the short term, in the micro. You hope that they can win 2 winnable games against teams that are below them in the net at home this week.
That's what I meant by blowing it up and starting over, is that in the world of a transfer portal, you can do that. It used to be, for the most part, you were kind of stuck with your roster and you needed to recruit better, to try to get a fresh new set of players in so you could start to turn that over. It's a little bit different now. Now, obviously, and Kevin mentioned this in the interview, that they've got a couple of high level recruits coming in, and that's great. But, in today's impatient world with the transfer portal, you can blow it up and kind of start over. And so, I don't know. I think that the next several games, as we go to the conclusion of this season, I think a lot of it needs to be an evaluation process. It needs to be an evaluation process with the players on the court and how many of them are going to be key figures in rebuilding this program. I don't know the answer to that because I don't have that evaluation experience. I'm not that guy. All I can say is that evaluation has better it better be going on now. It better continue as the rest of this season rolls on. So there is a better plan put in place for next season and moving forward. I was thinking about it earlier, and if you would have told me or anybody else, I'm guessing you're in the same boat. If you would have told us back in October of 2020 that this is where the program would be a little over 4 years later, or 3 years later, I wouldn't have believed you. I mean, this program has gone through monumental change since 2020, when Greg Marshall was fired and Darren Boatwright was fired and Kevin Saul is brought in and Isaac Brown is brought in and then removed. And now Paul Mills is in place. This program has probably gone through a decade worth of changes in the matter of 3 years. And so I do have sympathy for that. And I know that the current coach and the current athletic director have nothing to do with where this program was when they inherited it. I absolutely believe that. The issue is that it's now on their shoulders to turn it around and get it to a place where the expectations are being met by this community, by the stakeholders, by the donors, by the fan base, by everybody that cares about Shocker basketball in this community. That's easier said than done. And I know that. And I know that you and I can sit here and we talk about it constantly. We're not the ones doing it. So we are in a position where we get to talk about it because it is easier said than done. We don't have to do the doing. Too. So I get that. I'm not discounting that. But what I'm saying is that I know that I'm not in those meetings. I know that I'm not sitting in that chair. I know I'm not on the sideline. I know I'm not in the practices. I know I'm not watching film. I know I'm not the one doing all of that. And so I come from it from a very top level perspective. But at the same time, I do believe that as of now, as we know that this program is not going anywhere this season, barring a miracle conference tournament run, they're not going anywhere this season. So now I'm setting my eyes to the future to how to make sure that this does not happen again.
Yeah, look, I think that everybody plays a role when you talk about the bigger picture part of a program and its impact on the community and all these things. We have a role to play. I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's tailpipe ever. I hope I can promise you at least that. Like anybody can get up here and do that. It's not like accountability and interest and being a voice for the fans when they don't have one is a big part of what we do. No, I don't know anything about the 95 different types of screen sets that need to be run, but I also am not going to get paid $8.5 million to do this job, right? That's not my job. My job is to be a voice for the fans and to help try to get fans answers to the questions that they have. And I'll always try to do that, even as uncomfortable as that might be sometimes. But it does take everybody, when you have a level of impact on the community that program has in recent years, it is truly a community effort. You have to have engaged businesses that want to be supporters. You have to have an engaged fan base. You have to have an engaged donor base. You have to have a successful, coach, which is the most important part of it. And you have to, second most important part of it. And then you have to have successful players, which is the most important part of it. And so all those things have to happen. Well, a lot of that stuff had been unraveling for, you're right, a few years. And now the mess is inherited and it's got to be cleaned up. But it all runs so hand in hand, it does add to the difficulty of the task. And, if you're inside that program, I mean, the blinders have to go up and you just have to trust the process that's helped you find success your entire career, because you don't get to the positions that people at the university there are in if you haven't been successful your entire career. So, it's hard to do. I get it. You distract it. And, everybody wants the same goal. We all want that program. I've never met anybody that lives in this city that doesn't want that program to be successful. right? KU fans and K-State fans that live here want that program to be successful. It's good for our community. It drives our local economy. It drives, the experience on campus for an entire university, for fans, for everybody. So we all want the same thing, but understandably, everybody's frustrated right now that it's not coming, and there's nothing wrong with that. Expectations matter. You don't achieve these things without those expectations. So we'll see. They got 2 winnable games this week. Go get them, and we'll see. The good news is we know they always have a puncher's chance in the tournament. They've showed us that no matter what they do the rest of the regular season, we know that at any night they could beat any team in this league. So you can still hang your hat on that, and hopefully have better weeks than what we had last week. All right, we owe Shreyas Laddha a visit. Let's take care of some housekeeping here. First and foremost, we're going to tell you about an opportunity to go to, the College Hoops Championship Tournament in Kansas City. That's KFH and Taco Bell partnering to give you that opportunity March 13th through the 16th to cheer on those Kansas teams up there, or any team if you happen to live here and cheer for one of the others. This trip includes 2 all-session tournament passes and 3 nights hotel accommodations. To enter, simply text TB BIG to the number 20357. If you want a complimentary breakfast burrito, you can go to kfhradio.com, click on the events page, download the voucher, and then head to any Wichita and surrounding Taco Bell locations, excluding Hutchinson. Your chance to see the College Hoops Championship Tournament and snag a complimentary breakfast burrito from Taco Bell happens here on KFH. When we come back, we will get to KU, who had the best weekend of the 3 schools that we follow. We'll talk about some Jayhawk hoops next.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Winter is more than half over, and things are looking up. But before we start thinking about spring lawn care, I'd like to ask you to look up at your trees. This is Larry Ryan at Ryan Lawn and Tree. And right now, before the leaves fill in, is a great time to find and take care of old storm damage, remove dead branches, and carefully prune trees for better growth and storm resilience. Now is also when you can save 15% with our winter rates. Our team of master pruners and certified arborists is unmatched in both skill and care. And at Ryan Lawn and Tree, they're also employee owners. You're not just a customer, you're their customer. I think you'll be impressed with the difference that makes. So will your valuable trees. Take advantage of our winter rates and enjoy 15% off all tree services when you book before March 1st. Call today or book online at ryanlawn.com/tree.
It's easy to think all money managers are pretty much the same, but at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different how? Sell high commission investment products, right?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission-based investment products.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Nope, never at Fisher. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in our client's best interest. It's the highest standard of care for a financial advisor.
How do you know what's in their best interest?
We get to know our clients and then tailor a portfolio based on their goals and needs.
But you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No, we have one transparent management fee, structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, you really do look out for your clients.
That's because our top priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. It might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments and securities involve the risk of loss.
Hey, Rob Bradford here. I have set out on a mission with my good friends at FanDuel to prove what I have known for some time. Baseball isn't boring. Now I have a daily podcast to prove it with some of the most notable people in the baseball world, screaming baseball isn't boring from the mountaintops, or at least agreeing to come on our show. Players, managers, GMs, and yes, even the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred. It has been a constant wave of baseball's most powerful voices. So join the revolution. Subscribe and soak in Baseball Isn't Boring. Listen on your Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. You'll be glad you did.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car right in your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. Auto Trader.
Hey, any big plans for today? Yep, checking out Target's 4-day sale. Oh, for what? For scoring 20% off. For 20% off. For everything you need for spring. 20% off tees, jeans, and shoes. Even select bedding, bath, storage, and more. Wait, for real? For how long? 4 days. That's the name of the sale. Target's 4-day sale. Ah, the 4-day sale. Count me in for sure. Don't miss Target's 4-day sale. Ends Monday. Restrictions apply. See Target.com for details.
Is switching your wireless service to Total by Verizon easy?
Totalmente.
And you get unlimited 5G data, $25 a line for 4 lines on the unlimited plan at an amazing price with no contracts. Should you switch to Total by Verizon? Definitely.
Totalmente.
Find a store or switch suavemente at totalbyverizon.com. No pay rate when you activate without a pay, plus taxes and fees. Discount begins the month after you enroll. Additional terms apply. See website for data management practices.
At the UPS Store, we know this upcoming holiday is when things can get busy for small business owners.
Exactly. My to-do list and I don't take days off.
That's why you can count on us to be open and ready to help with every small business need, whether it's packing and shipping or if it's just to check your mailbox.
That's almost everything on my to-do list. My list and I can take the day off.
Your local, the everything to help you be unstoppable store, the UPS Store. Be unstoppable. The UPS Store locations are independently owned. Product services, pricing, and hours may vary. See Center for details.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to start getting conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's BABBEL.com.
Dude, you gotta hear this.
Go ahead. I think I want to hear this.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
It's that time, Sports Daily, getting all the inside information on the Kansas Jayhawks. Let's go now to the KU football and basketball beat writer from the Kansas City Star, Shreyas Latta.
And we come back and we talk a little KU. Just shake off the bad energy from rough weeks on college basketball. It was not for KU. The Jayhawks get one of their biggest wins of the year. You know, look, it wasn't against the most impressive team or anything like that, but Shreyas, as we look at it, it was a game on the road. That's the first check mark. They got 10 minutes from Nicholas Timberlake off the bench. He did not turn the ball over. Meaningful bench minutes. So you kind of check 2 boxes with this one. Meaningful bench contributions, I think, and a road win. And now a week off. That feels pretty good today for KU basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything besides the meaningful bench contributions. I thought Jamari did a decent job in the minutes that he played. But Phil talked about it. He played the bench 6 minutes in the second half because they switched up defensive scheme so they wouldn't give up as many threes. I think they switched them ball screens. And I think Oklahoma went 1 of 10 or 1 of 11 after hitting, I think, 7 or 8 in the first half. So other than that, I mean, I think it was a great win by Kansas. You know, I don't think that Timberlake did anything particularly well, as good as he's done the 2 previous games offensive end wise. But I guess, like you said, if the bar is not, you know,
it's no turnovers. It's it's just come into the game and don't just gift wrap it for the other team. Like, honestly, for me, like for KU, you just need to give the starters a chance to catch their breath. I don't think they need the production, do they? They just need the starters to be able to rest.
I think that is pretty true. I mean, I'm sure they'll need the production against some better teams. I mean, Oklahoma was down 2 key bench players, and one of them is a guy who's averaging 13 in league play, so he would have definitely helped. But I mean, I had a feeling this team was going to beat Oklahoma. They're not very good on the offensive end. They're a good defensive team, you know, and like the shooting was a mirage. Anyone could have told you the shooting was a mirage. I had a feeling the shooting was a mirage because, you know, they're not that great of a, you know, 3-point shooting team. I think they were shooting 32% from deep coming into the game in league play. So it was a good win for KU. I don't know what to make of it because in the sense of it's important they get rest, and I think they're going to come out, beat Texas at home, beat K-State at home. The last 2 games of the season, Baylor and Houston, you know, it could go they could sweep both of them. That basically guarantees them, I think, the Big 12 title, it feels like. Or it could be something like where they split one and, they get second or third in the conference. But where KU sits right now is a lot more favorable than it sat, just even 2 games ago.
I was a little surprised when I saw that Kevin McCullough was going to play. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so they can rest him against Oklahoma on the road, continue, having him rehab, and then you get an entire week off before you're back at home taking on. So that gives you more time to get McCullough up. But he played 35 minutes in the game on Saturday, 10 points, 8 rebounds. Did you notice any kind of limitations from McCullough? What did you assess from him in his return on Saturday?
I mean, I think Bill talked about it best in the sense of he wasn't his usual self and he was trying to figure out his rhythm, but he played with it himself and he hit the biggest shot of the game, that 3-pointer that gave Kansas the lead. And if he wasn't there, Kansas probably loses that game with how they were playing in the first half, So I didn't really notice too much. I definitely think it's going to be one of those things that, the bone bruise thing is something they need to monitor. Having a week off can only help him and the rest of the Kansas team. I think Hunter Dickinson mentioned it afterwards that this was the best he felt in 2 months. And I noticed that too, because he dunked the basketball, I think, one time, which he hasn't done in a long time. So limitation-wise, I didn't see anything too crazy. I think he was just a little out of rhythm and getting back to his usual conditioning after not playing for nearly 2 weeks.
How big will this week off be, do you think? From what you gather and how much this they got to get a little bit of a long week there and get the rest. So if 5 days rest cured a little of what ailed them before Oklahoma, how much do you think 7 days rest then does this team good? This is the last stretch of big rest that they're going to have the rest of the season. They won't have it again. How important is it? I mean, do you put them on ice? Do you practice hard? Or how do you handle it?
I think it's going to be, very important. I think it's going to be one of those things that Bill probably practices them a little bit, but probably not go as hard as he could have gone. Because I think, like you said, he knows that this is the last real stretch of the regular season and really before tournament play starts where they have this long of a rest. And it's clear that these guys need some time to rest and recuperate. Juan and both Dickinson talked about how excited they are for the week off to kind of just relax a little bit. And I don't blame them. It's been a long season. It's been a lot of, Saturday, Monday games the last couple of weeks. So that's definitely taken a toll on the legs. And I think this Kansas team is going to come out rejuvenated, feeling good. They're going to probably beat Texas because Texas is not very good, period. But I think, they're going to look really good against Texas. They're going to beat K-State at home. And then the fun begins when they play Baylor and Houston on the road.
Well, this is a really difficult stretch this week for the top team in the Big 12. The Houston Cougars. They play Iowa State at home tonight on Big Monday, and then they're on the road this weekend taking on Baylor. So there could very easily be a scenario where, Kansas a game and a half back right now with that week off, where they could be right back in the mix to compete for a Big 12 championship. So as we are looking ahead to not only this weekend against Texas, I mean, I think you mentioned it a couple of minutes ago. What do you think it's going to take from, obviously you're going to need a little bit of help from these other teams, but what do you think from the Jayhawks perspective they have to do to be able to get back into the race for the Big 12?
I think, you need to keep playing the level of defense they played against Oklahoma. They had one of their best defensive halves of the year. They limited Oklahoma to 4 made shots. I mean, you don't hear that often. 4 of 18. I think that's a 4 of 22 or something like that. 18% from the field, which is nuts. You need to have that kind of level. Maybe not quite that, but a similar level defense that stays consistent at times when you need it. Obviously the typical stuff. Don't turn the ball over. Make sure the guys are healthy. Let Johnny keep doing what he's doing, in the sense of he's averaging 14, 15 since basically he's starting and he's kind of really found his role on the team. But the biggest thing is you can't get behind on the road. I think it puts them in a tough position against good teams on the road when you're down big, because it takes a lot of effort to just try and claw back. And a lot of times it doesn't happen or they fall just short just because of the fact. The matter is, it's a tough environment wherever you go in the Big 12 to win the road. And Baylor and Houston are going to be really, really tough environments. I think Kansas will probably win one of those out of the two. I don't know which one, but I'd probably say the Baylor game they'd win.
Well, I can't wait to see how they use it and if they can just get, a burst of energy and go tight. I still don't know, even after a nice win against Oklahoma, how to look at this team in the tournament. I don't think it's maybe it is. Maybe you know this. Is it a matchup thing this year in the tournament? Is it a, hopeful that nobody gets into foul trouble thing in the tournament? I think most importantly, obviously, is that everybody's healthy, but I don't, it's not as clearly defined to me as far as like the path and what kind of team they play against. But if it is, what would that be? Like, who does Kansas want to match up with? What style is best fitted for their wins?
You want to play teams that are slower, filled with people with big men, can't shoot the basketball. You don't want to play teams that can shoot the ball. I think that's one of the biggest issues Kansas is going to face this year. Whoever they play is if this team can shoot the heck out of the three ball and they get hot, Kansas can very well be sent out early. I think because of the fact that we've seen it, every game, but I think the Cincinnati game, I wrote about it, they've been outshot from three in Big 12 play. That's nuts to me. If you're playing at a disadvantage from three-point land every game, basically, whether it's 9 points or 15 points, it's really tough to win basketball games. But Kansas's defense has been good enough for them to win more often than not at home. And, they've won every game at home, sorry. And on the road, they just captured their second road conference victory. The big thing for them is it's definitely, I think, come down to matchups. I don't think the college basketball field outside of Utah is particularly amazing this year. I could see Kansas making a run if they can stay healthy, if they don't play teams that can shoot the ball really well, if they can get maybe a Nick Timberlake or Elmarco Jackson or Jamar McDowell game in the tournament to help out when they need some scoring or whatever else they need. I'm a little more optimistic about this Kansas team than I was maybe a week ago, but I think ultimately it's a flawed team. But because the field is filled with flawed teams, it's going to come down to matchups.
Let's talk about the Longhorns this weekend, Sharius. I feel like this is a team that has a tremendous amount of talent with Tyrese Hunter and Max A. Smith and Dylan Disu. Like, they've got really big-time playmakers, but they've definitely underperformed this season under Rodney Terry, getting blown out just the last couple of days against Houston by 21 points. What do we know about them? Do you feel like this is a team that could potentially jump up and bite the Jayhawks, or do you think Kansas matches up well?
I think Kansas matches up really well. Obviously, talent is talent, right? So talent can play out, and sometimes upsets happen. But, Kansas is going to come off a long rest. They're going to be rested, recuperated. I mean, I just don't see this Texas team beating Kansas at home. If they beat Kansas at home, then we have a lot of bigger issues because, like Rodney Terry has just not had the best second season I think Texas fans are hoping for. And, it'll be interesting because obviously they go to the SEC next year. So I think it'll be a little easier than Big 12, but the SEC is no joke either. But, I think, like you said, relative to expectations, this Texas team has been a disappointment. But they have a lot of talent, some talent that'll probably be playing in the NBA within the next year or two. And, anything can happen, but I'd be surprised if Kansas loses them. I think Bill Self is just too good of a coach, and he'll have his team ready to go at home because, that's what he does best.
Big 12's back in play, everybody. We'll see if they can get it done. They get to play two of the teams they trail, so that certainly helps. In fact, they get to play all three of the teams they trail. Sharius, we appreciate it. You can find Sharius work at the Kansas City Star. You can follow Sharius on social media. Enjoy a few extra days off, and then we'll be right back here next week to talk about the big one this weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
There goes Sharius Latta joining us as he does every week. Our KU Insider, always appreciate that. It was good to see for KU. Now the rest will be the best thing to see, just plain and simple. President's Day. Look, Tommy, I don't know how we're surviving it without some caffeine. Appreciate Prairie Fire Coffee for, feeding everybody. Jad, he's got a lot of coffee to drink this morning up at the Odyssey Studios. Just he and Steve up there. Jad, how many cups of Prairie Fire Coffee have you had this morning? 9, 10? I did. I was in yesterday.
Who's talking about anything?
Yeah. What's happening right now? Whenever I go in, so I was in yesterday for a CBS shift, and man, I never drink more coffee than when I do those, just because like 4 or 5 hours or whatever. When you're so like, I just need the heat on my voice, and I just run through that prairie fire. It's so good. We appreciate them for providing us some coffee up at the Odyssey Studios. All right, let's
really
take a quick break. Yeah. Well played, Jack. Well played. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. Your thoughts on anything. We've been tied up on the phone lines today, but we'll open them up for the rest of the time. KFH hotline 869-1240. We'll come back. More Sports Daily after this.
Time to get back to the sports talk.
All right, let's do this thing. Go!
Sports Daily is on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Wildcat basketball tonight, and you can hear it right here on 97.5, 1240 KFH, and for free on the Odyssey app. Wildcat basketball, 8 o'clock on KFH after the Shocker Coaches shows, the Brian Green show at 5, the Terry Nooner show at 6, the Paul Mills show at 7, all on KFH. It is a busy, busy night of programming. Happy President's Day. You can simply download the Odyssey app and search for KFH if you're not around your radio tonight as well. NBA All-Star Weekend, cue the annual tradition of everybody complaining about an All-Star game and exhibition and all of these things. And I just contend with always, why do we care? You don't care, but nobody cares as much as they pretend to care about how much they can't watch it. Just don't watch it. It's an exhibition game. You don't watch any of them anyway. Very few people do, relatively speaking. Might watch the Major League Baseball All-Star game. You know what? It's fine. I'll tell you what I did tune into. Was Steph versus Sabrina. I did jump in on that real quick. I didn't realize it was, I'd heard about it for a while, and then I was just scrolling around. What night did that happen? Saturday night? And I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. And I saw it, and I turned it on just in time. I love that idea, by the way. I thought it was really cool. But I'm not watching the slam dunk contest featuring Mac McClung and Jaquez. Like, I don't have any interest in that. I'm sorry.
You know what happens? You know what happens when you complain too much about an All-Star game? The NFL Pro Bowl happens. That's what happens. And now it's a flag football game. So you complain about how it's not competitive.
Which is what it should be. I mean,
and then it turns into something that's completely unwatchable. You know, I'm even less interested in the Pro Bowl now than I was when it was an actual game. So I didn't watch the All-Star game. I don't care about the All-Star game.
No.
But I'm not complaining about it. I'm not saying that they need to make all these changes because it's an All-Star game. Who cares?
Nothing
just
they
don't
can
watch
do.
it.
There's nothing they can do that's going to make you watch it. Now, maybe what they've lost is the slam dunk contest, right? Historically, that's the thing you would watch. They've lost that, right? And the Steph versus Sabrina thing was cool. I hope they continue something to that effect. But, Major League Baseball gets the home run derby. That helps, right? That's a big part of it. I think that's why football.
Well, I think the home run derby is more fun than the actual All-Star game for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it probably has surpassed it. The things that interested me, though, are the things that Adam Silver was talking about with the 65-game rule and, the impact that NIL is having on the G League. I think those were the interesting things. One, I don't know if the 65-game rule is perfect, but I do think it's a good attempt at solving what is the biggest challenge right now for the NBA, and that is that people are not going to get invested into the regular season when they don't think the star players are going to play. When you don't think that you're getting maximum effort, why watch it? Why would I watch that? I'll watch college basketball where I know that's happening, and I'll just jump into the NBA playoffs where I know I'm getting max effort. That's a challenge for the NBA. And look, Major League Baseball had a challenge that it just solved for the most part. And so this may not be where it ends, but it's a good start. And, players, you're going to have to deal with it, man. You're going to have to do your job. And what the hardest part of it, it's just like the shift. This analogy just keeps sticking out to me. So the shift and the 3 true outcomes thing kept happening because it was helping teams win, but it wasn't the best thing for the fans, right? Load management is helping teams win, but it's not what's best for the fans. And ultimately, you got to do what's best for the fans. And so these things I think will be good. I think that'll get star players out there. I think that will help. But I did think that was interesting. And then the G League. Adam Silver talking about, he's got to reevaluate the G League now because players want to go to college because they can make NIL. Well, mission accomplished there for college. That's not a challenge. That's a good thing for college basketball. I think some people took that as a bad thing and a challenge. And I'm like, no, now we get the best players in college basketball where they belong, where we'll actually watch them play.
Imagine that. You pay college athletes, they might want to stick around a little bit longer and play for your university. I mean, who would have ever thought that? Who would have ever thought that we would be in this place right now where the NBA G League is not the most appealing place for a college basketball player to go? Maybe it's better for them to try to cash in a little bit at their current institution and stick around. Oh, and by the way, get some kind of education while they're there, and at least they're being compensated for their time. I mean, it's a shocking situation. It's crazy. It's taken this long, and there's been so much hand wringing to try to prevent it. And now we're at this place right now. I agree with you. I mean, I think this is absolutely the best thing possible for college basketball and honestly the NBA as well.
And no, it's not perfect, right? It's not, NIL is not perfect, but it will get there. It will get there. A couple other things that I've seen this morning that I did not see over the weekend. Did you see Des Bryant hit a 13-legger in college basketball?
I did not know.
So he bet like $750 on a 13-leg parlay. This reminds me of our buddy Matt Gersner. He fires off his ticket of a 13-legger. He hits it and won like $500,000. Like,
wow.
Good for Des. I'm happy for you, Des. It was the final leg was Nevada beating UNLV. That's so cool. That is so cool. So if we scale that down to what we bet, he had plus 54,215 odds on that. So I don't know what that would equate on like a $10 bet like we make on those things.
Did he get a profit boost on that by any chance?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he had a booster on there. 13-legger. I remember I've had a 10-legger get 9 of 10 before. Yeah. I think that's about the highest I've ever with the 10th leg being the last game too. Like that was the finale game. It was back before these things were legal. When I was young and stupid and like I don't even remember how I was betting, but I found a way and like it was the most agonizing. And then I immediately stopped after that until it became legal or I was at a sports book. I was like, I'm never doing that again. That was excruciating. And now it's easy. You can do it for like $5 or whatever. But I thought that was fun that I saw here this morning.
Hey, by the way, I was going to ask you, are you going to lock into the Daytona 500 today? Because it got rescheduled to today from yesterday.
No, I'm not. Look, I used to be a part of this show when we would have NASCAR talk every week, and I didn't pretend to know or care about NASCAR then. I'm not going to pretend to know or care about NASCAR now. I appreciate it. I want to get to a live race up at the Kansas Motor Speedway very badly. I love the fanfare of it. I drive a Kia. Cars and engines and I don't have a need for speed. I have a need for a speed limit. Like I'm not a car person. I can't truly appreciate it. This is just the way it is. Like I don't have much interest in it. I love the drivers though. I just want to go like hang out at a NASCAR race badly. But when you start talking to me about, the parts of a car engine, I'm out. Like I just fix it, make it work, and don't screw me. I need to know enough to not get screwed by a mechanic, and that's about it.
Yeah, I don't really follow NASCAR either. Isn't the Daytona 500 like the one that kicks everything off?
It's a big one.
Like it's the big one. And typically it would have been yesterday, but because of weather, they rescheduled it to today. There's really, come on a Monday afternoon. What else is there on a day where people kind of have the day off? A lot of people do. Could be something good to lock into this afternoon.
You remember when I said it was going to be nice and sunny outside? Whatever my day ends up being, I hope it's outside. Yeah, we're like mid 50s in February with sunshine. Like I got to do something. No, I'm not going to
golf. Should we go out and play some golf?
I'll call my wife and ask her.
You call my wife and ask her. Yeah, see if that's okay.
Yeah, let's see how that pans out. No, I may go run drills with my daughter and get ready for tonight's basketball game. We got a big game coming up tonight. No, that's going to be. I actually have work to do. I have to do a lot of work, and I've got to get it done before that basketball game. I just want to do it outside, and maybe they'll figure out a way how to do that. It is beautiful weather this week. We know it's not going to last. There's going to be some nasty stretch coming in, and it will derail us. Real quick, Tommy, big one tonight. I might be interested in this for an 8:00 tip. Iowa State at Houston. Come on now. That's good. That is good stuff. I don't know if Iowa State can go down there and get that win. Houston's favored by 9 points. Houston is in as good a position to win a national championship as it has ever been. I mean, and they are winning by these margins. 9 points tonight at home over Iowa State, who's 20-5 this season. That is wild to think about, but that's the line. I will probably spend a little time with that this evening once the kids go to bed.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the University of Kansas, the Jayhawks, they're going to be watching that game pretty closely tonight because, I mean, it's going to have a.
Well, I mean, somebody's going to lose, right? Like,
well, yeah.
Do you even care who loses? You need them both to lose. So, I mean, I suppose you'd want Houston to lose a home game more.
Yeah.
But, or do you, right? Or do you want Iowa State to fall so you more securely try to get back into a 1 seed or a 2 in the NCAA tournament? There's a lot. I mean, it'll impact them. I just don't know what the best case scenario is. And then, of course, we'll have K-State again. That's an 8 o'clock tip against Texas. We'll have that one, too. I'm going to put them side by side in the basement. Hey, on the way out, let's give away some HTO tea and coffee. You can get an iced tea at any HTO location here in the Wichita Metro, East, West, or in Derby. You can get the coffee, the Brewhouse coffee, iced or hot. That'll be available for you at East Wichita or Derby. Chad will get us a winner on the way out. We'll come back. We'll recap all of the things happening on KFH tonight next.
For John's 60th birthday, his family planned to drive down Old Route 66. But the trip took a detour when his wife got sick with RSV. It's a highly contagious virus that can lead to breathing problems and hospitalizations.
This year, we don't want to cancel our plans. We're protecting ourselves with Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo, respiratory syncytial virus vaccine.
Abrysvo, a vaccine to prevent lower respiratory disease from RSV in people 60 years and older. It's not for everyone and may not protect all who receive it. Don't get Abrysvo if you've had an allergic reaction to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may decrease your response. Most common side effects are tiredness, headache, injection site pain, and muscle pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-844-989-7284 or visit abrysvo.com.
So don't wait. Ask your pharmacist or doctor about Pfizer's RSV vaccine, Abrysvo, because every breath matters.
I'm attorney John Rapp, and our team at Hinkle Law Firm stands ready and willing to help you or your business with any criminal defense investigation. If you've been contacted by law enforcement or have been arrested, please call me at 316-267-2000.
Who wants to go wheeling? Here at Truck Stuff, we like to go off-road, and know many of you do too. Now is a great time to get your rig ready with some bigger wheels and tires, get it lifted or axles trussed, new gears, or even some locally made rock sliders. We can also get your whip lights and recovery gear, or even the hitch for your tow rig. We have interest-free financing through Snap, so come see us today at Truck Stuff at the corner of Central and Washington.
Check us out, Truck Stuff.
I'm attorney Tyler Patterson. Patterson Legal Group helps hundreds of people each year with their car wreck cases. That's a lot of checks for a lot of happy people. And as our way of saying thanks, we're committed to making Kansas a better place for everyone. Over the years, we've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to local nonprofits in the community. When you hire Patterson Legal Group, you're not just getting a team of legal professionals, you're helping make Kansas a better place for everyone.
Patterson Legal is the way to go. Call 550-0000.
Are you a talented individual looking for an exciting opportunity? Superior Plumbing, a leading name in the plumbing industry, is now hiring. If you're a skilled plumber with experience or a fresh apprentice eager to learn, Superior Plumbing wants you to join our team. We offer competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a supportive work environment. Call 684-8349 today.
Superior Plumbing will come a-running, cause we care, treat you fair and square. And our name says it all, Superior.
When a cold comes on strong, try DayQuil Severe Honey Flavor. The daytime, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine. Powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, so a cold won't slow you down. Get back to your day feeling relieved, enjoying the delicious flavor of DayQuil Severe Honey. DayQuil Severe Honey Flavor soothes your symptoms with a delicious taste. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate. Not one based on the driver who treats the highway like a racetrack and the shoulder like a passing lane. Why pay a rate based on anyone else? Get one based on you with DriveWise from Allstate.
Not available in Alaska or California, subject to terms and conditions. Rates are determined by several factors, which vary by state. In some states, participation in DriveWise allows Allstate to use your driving data for purposes of rating. While in some states, your rate could increase with high-risk driving. Generally, safer drivers will save with DriveWise. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888. That's 888-8888.
The Wichita Thunder returned home Sunday afternoon and picked up a 5-2 victory over Tulsa at Intrust Bank Arena. Jason Panillo wound up with the Gordie Howe hat trick, a goal, an assist, and a fight. Wichita begins a 4-game road swing starting on Wednesday night in Iowa. The Wichita State men's road woes continue. Shockers losing at Charlotte 72-61 on Sunday afternoon, their 9th straight road loss. The Shockers return home to host Tulsa on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Shocker Coaches shows tonight right here on KFH, starting with baseball and Shocker head coach Brian Green at 5 o'clock, followed by women's basketball coach Terry Nooner at 6, men's basketball with Paul Mills at 7. The K-State men in action tonight. Coverage starts at 8 o'clock on KFH. The Wildcats on the road in Austin facing the Texas Longhorns. Filling in today for Ted the Sports Ed, I'm Jed Chambers.
We have your front row tickets to the biggest games. Number 1 for sports and sports talk. 97.5 and 1240 KFH. Wichita's most listened to sports radio. 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, again, real quick. Busy day. So you got Bob and Jeff locally 2 to 4. The Brian Green Show, Wichita State Baseball at 5 o'clock. The Terry Nooner Show, Wichita State Softball at 6 o'clock. The Paul Mills Show, Wichita State Women's Basketball for Terry Nooner. Wichita State Men's Basketball, Paul Mills, 7 o'clock. Leads you right up to K-State taking on Texas tonight in Austin at 8 o'clock. Tommy, enjoy President's Day. Enjoy the weather outside, everybody. Jad, thanks for all your hard work today there in the office. You're a blazing pioneer of working on this revered holiday here in this country. We'll be back tomorrow with more Sports Day.